This is How I Sold Your Attention with Travis Chambers, a business growth podcast you actually want to listen to. Epic stories told in a dramatic, narrative format about hacking media, getting people's attention, and turning them into customers. Hear entrepreneurs' most inspiring and personal journeys in making the leap, finding life balance, and scaling it all. Episode 2, How Children Destroyed My Career. My dad had lost everything in 3 years. Parkinson's, cancer, and divorce. Everything he worked for his whole life, all those 80-hour weeks were seemingly for nothing. He was forced to retire in his highest paid years. And I was doing the exact same thing he did, working 80 hours a week, missing so many precious moments with my wife and kid, putting in my time, hoping to climb the ladder. And in that moment, I realized it was all a total waste. My career was on the up and up. I was a millennial star. My gross overestimation of my talent and value and stereotypical changing of companies every year was working very well as a strategy. I was always more valuable to someone else, whether or not I was ready for the job. Finally, the strategy caught up to me. I was making a healthy 6 figures in directing creative and social media for promoting feature film releases at 20th Century Fox. I was doing almost exactly what I told my parents I wanted to do when I was 12. Dad, I want to be the guy that makes commercials for the movies. I was a really weird 12-year-old. I was charging hard, putting in the 70 to 80-hour weeks, totally in over my head, but determined to fake it until I made it. Then, my first child came. Everything went haywire because I was new. I couldn't take any time off. My wife was taking on 95% of the workload that comes with the baby. I was getting requests from work at 11 p.m. that were due by 8 a.m. I was working until 2 a.m. every night and starting in again at 6 a.m. most days, including weekends. I was ducking out in the middle of church to handle requests. The dream of a big shot Hollywood job had become an absolute nightmare because of this adorable little girl. This adorable little girl who made me realize how miserable I was in my glamorous job, how incredibly unimportant my work was with David Fincher's 30th revision to move copy 1 pixel to the right on our Twitter profile skin for Gone Girl, a script I actually despised so much that I never even watched the movie. This little adorable baby girl absolutely decimated my career. I couldn't stay focused. I was doling out excuses for lack of performance constantly. I wasn't attentive on conference calls and would get caught ignoring conversations red-handed constantly. I was exhausted. I was failing my employer and failing my wife even worse. My life was a disaster, and I was missing out on all of my daughter's firsts. Then, I got fired. Well, laid off gently and very courteously with a far too generous severance. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Now that I had this magical human being in my care, all I cared about was her, and I had 3 months of living expenses to figure life out. My friend Jake Larson's business he started was taking off. He seemed happy and free. I wanted that freedom more than anything. I read the $100 startup and realized I didn't need to start some massive company with investment money in order to provide for this little priceless treasure of a daughter. So I started a service business, an ad agency. I started calling everyone I knew offering anything that I thought they might want. 3 months went by. My nest egg disappeared. I maxed out my credit card in month 4 when I got a client for a 3-month campaign. It was a miracle. Then a month later, another one. It was as if everyone in my professional network was waiting to see whether or not I would tank. Then another client, then another. And at the end of the year 1, we made good revenue. And it was just me, full-time, and a couple of partners moonlighting outside of their day jobs. It was working. They wouldn't make the jump, so we split. I hired a guy and another guy. Year 2, we did even better revenue, and we're on a rocket ship, doubling revenue quarter over quarter. Our work was getting featured on Mashable, BuzzFeed, Adweek, Forbes. I was speaking at events. This thing was actually working. I couldn't believe it. Work was coming out of nowhere from the most unforeseen of places. And the best part, I didn't care about prestige anymore. I didn't care about my importance, my relevance, my title, my pedigree. All I cared about was providing for my sweet girl and making her happy. And that complete paradigm shift generated abundance and prestige that I never would have achieved in another decade of my glam Hollywood job. And most of that time, yes, I was frantic, but I rarely worked more than 50 hours a week. We traveled everywhere as a family. I took my little princess to the pool every day. I gave my wife a break to pursue her hobbies. We went to Europe for 2 weeks. We went to Oregon Coast. We went to Europe again. And we went to Hawaii. We went to Disneyland almost every week. I became an actual decent friend and extended family member. I took my dad and brother to Death Valley on a man trip. Having children destroyed my career, but having children saved my life. This gorgeous, hilarious, magical, mystical little treasure saved my life. She brought fullness, fulfillment. She was this giant wrecking ball that decimated the skyscraper that was my life and reformed it into a magical village full of abundance, friends, family, good health, and tranquility. If you think maybe it's time to destroy your career and save your life, maybe have a kid. Listen to episode 3 to find out the lessons I learned that I wish I could have told my younger self. Thanks for listening to How I Sold Your Attention. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can be notified of episodes that come out every Tuesday and Thursday. And if you like this episode, please share. Also, you can check out our show notes at chamber.media on the podcast tab. You can help us out by reviewing the show. If you have any questions or ways we can improve, email me at travis@chamber.media.